Pay attention, Brian. Today I want to show you how to do a DIY deck frame. I know I do a lot of professional decks and show you how the pros do it, but I thought we'd strip it down today because I'm in my own backyard and show you how to do a bare, basic DIY frame. Now, if you look around my yard, you'll see it looks like a lumber yard and my wife's not too happy about it. So it's time for me to get to work and start doing some of those things on the list that I promised I'd have done probably months ago. So let's go. Now this gazebo or pergola or whatever this thing currently is was here as soon as we moved in. We've only lived here for about 4 months now, and I definitely have to do something about that. So I'm thinking this is the great place for a ground level deck, and I'm going to put a gazebo on top of it once the deck is built. So what I want to do first is demolish what we have here, get it out of the way, and then clean up the debris a little bit. One thing I noticed as I got out here, I've actually never stepped in this corner yet since I've lived here, but check this out. These existing vines are actually pretty big and they take years to get this developed. So I want to utilize those and have them grow on the pergola that I'm going to build. And I think it'd be great. So we'll cut these down to size, but we'll keep them alive. We'll just trim them back, and then hopefully in the spring we'll see some craziness going on. Now, from my experience in the past, we can cut these things down without killing them, as long as we keep the roots intact. They're pretty much like weeds that'll just keep growing up and up and up and up. So that'll eliminate what's stuck. I'll snip that off, and then we'll leave this intact. And we'll leave this intact and shorten it a bit because the way it is right now is a bit crazy. And that way, when we build our deck, we have an already indentured plant system to grow over the pergola that will make it look like it's been there for years. So that's going to be pretty cool. I'm excited about that part. Oh, look at this. This is an oldie. That's made of like teak wood, and I know I can probably restore this and it would look pretty cool. It's old, but it's solid. So it'd be a shame to get rid of it. Yeah, it's still good. Ooh. It looked like garbage at first, but we can turn this into something nice. Today we're going to be using these Tuff Block foundation blocks. They're a vinyl block that replaces the concrete blocks. Now this is typically something you'd use on a super low level deck, a rooftop deck, or a DIY job like we're going to do today. And I'm going to keep it very simple, very cheap, and very basic to show you how to do a DIY deck with minimal tools, minimal experience, and minimal time. All right, so let's cut this thing down. Make sure you're wearing your earplugs, safety glasses, helmet, hard hat, face mask, gloves, all the protective equipment, possibly chainmail, whatever you feel comfortable with, just to make sure you're safe. All right, that was easy. So, one thing we have to admit is the fact that things are going to get much more dirty before they start to get clean, but I think we'll be okay. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why didn't you just go get a drill and a bunch of different bits and start removing the hardware? Well, in my experience, when hardware gets that rusty, it becomes something you have to cut off anyway, so I just figured I'd cut to the chase. And this is not perfectly good and salvageable, so stop. Let me get this Death Star out of here. Jesus. Oh, it's a pipe frame. Hey, great idea. All right, let's see if we can finish this thing. All right. That's not gonna work. All right, plan B. Can't find my other sawzall, but I got this old hacksaw. Back in the day, this used to do the trick. You just gotta make sure it's real tight. So let's see if we can finish this thing with this. Let's open this cut up a bit. Get in there. Careful now. Got this. See that? It's actually almost faster with the hacksaw. Ignore that Christmas tree over there. It's not, hasn't been there for 2 months. I didn't just throw it out the door as soon as Christmas was done and leave it in the backyard. My hands look like this, so my wife's can look like this. Okay, so that was easy. I just had to run to Home Depot and purchase a brand new measuring tape because apparently the 20 I bought last year aren't here, which is great. I'm sure that's relatable to a lot of people. My finished frame is going to be 8 feet inside to inside because I got an 8x8 pergola I'll be mounting inside the frame afterwards. So we're going to do that. With that being said, each 2x material is actually 1.5 inches thick. So we're going to add 3 inches. So in total, we'll have an 8'3" by 8'3" deck frame. Let's do it. So the first thing I'm going to do is put down some of this landscape fabric, and that'll stop whatever weeds or grass is going to grow up through. Now, this is a DIY job today, so I need you to keep that in mind. If this was a professional build for a client that's paying you as a professional, I would suggest you put this fabric down and then you put 3/4 clear gravel on top before you do your foundation. Today, we're just doing this. Roll this out, give it a snip. And if it's a windy day, you might want to nail these in with some spikes. But luckily it's not too windy for me today. Or you can use staples. Sometimes they come with them. Today we're using the Tuff Block vinyl foundation blocks. These replace the old school concrete blocks that you see for DIY jobs. And what's cool about these, you can do super low level decks with them. And for us, they say you can put it right on the dirt, so we're actually just going to do that. We're going to be using 2x6 pressure treated joists. And that being the case, we don't want our cantilever to be more than about 6 inches because 2x6 typically doesn't make a great floor joist, but for a DIY low-level deck, it'll work perfectly. Alrighty then. So the next step is we know our total outside to outside of our frame is going to be 8'3". So I'm going to cut 3 pieces of 2x6 at 8 foot 3 inches. You can use a miter saw, a chop saw, a double bevel compound sliding miter saw. Don't do this to me now. Look at that. She's gone to battery heaven. Oh, rest in peace. You know what? I'm not surprised. I've had this battery for years. I'm using it as a hammer. Get what I deserve. We got more. All right. I purchased 2x6x10 because in softwood, we can only buy dimensions of 8, 10, 12, 16, and 20. Now those dimensions that we're purchasing, I have an 8'3" thing to build. Obviously, I'm gonna have to purchase the 10s, but it's not that wasteful because we take here 8'3", We'll be saving our cutoffs for blocking later, mid-span blocking or blocking in the posts for the pergola. Here's a DIY tip. What you want to do is take a speed square like this. These are relatively inexpensive tools that everyone would have. If you're a professional, if you're a DIY, I suggest you go and buy one. You can get a cheap plastic one for around $5. I think one of these are around 15 to 20. Not a huge investment, and it'll make sure that your work's a lot cleaner. Now, here's a trick if you have trouble cutting straight lines and all you're using is a circular saw and you don't have a lot of experience. You put your cursor right there on the line. You put your speed square against, this is called the shoe plate of the saw. What you want to make sure is that your blade and your cursor are actually in sync with each other, because on a lot of saws they're not. This particular saw is rather accurate, so we can use the cursor, but a lot of people recommend you follow the blade. Either way, make sure your blade's lined up with your mark and then go. All right. The Tuff Block, depending on which direction you go. Now this direction is for more swollen or wider timbers, depending on what you're framing with. This is for the 1x or the 2x, and that fits nicely right in there. You see these little bumps on the surface? That's what stops water from pooling right against the lumber. So if you think about it, this is actually a great solution for rooftop decks and stuff like that. It's great. Try it like this. Another way, you can freehand it, watch the blade or the cursor, depending on the saw you're using. I just suggest watch the blade to be on the safe side. Another one. So you see here is the 2-inch, and here is the 41 mil. It really depends on where you're building. So the 2-inch, we're going to have it go like that. What is this? In our way. Let's get it out of here. Okay. Right, and for the third and final trick I can show you for cutting these, we take our mark. It's very simple. Whew. And we just cut it. That depends on the level of experience you have. Whether I recommend that for everybody, no. And in there, done that. Now, we know all three of these are the same size, so this is sort of the layout for as wide as it's going to go. And as we get to framing our rim joists and all the joists in between, we'll get to squaring that up. But first, let's throw a level on this and find out how level the ground was before we even started. That's fairly close. Wasn't expecting that. So that being said, a couple composite shims on that side and here to close up those gaps should do the trick. That's fairly level earth going on here. That's wow, and they're all going the same direction, which is fantastic. So we know this edge is well, I have to say it's remarkably flat for what we're doing here, and I think I deserve that for all the hassle we had to go through this morning to get to this point. So I feel like I was given a break, and I'll take it. I want my pergola slash deck here that we're building to be 8x8, and I really want to utilize these existing vines. So I'm going to build them up pretty close to the vines, and in the back here, you're going to notice there's space that's being unused between the fence and the deck. The fence and the deck here as well. So what I want to do is maybe build a garden bed in there so that we have some flowers and stuff around the deck. That way it's not completely dead space. And that's the idea for, at least for what we're doing back here. 7'6" right there. All right, that's the rough layout for now, but we're going to make sure everything is super square in a minute, and I'm going to show you how we do that once the joists are on. Look at this. Wow. So, turns out the ground here is remarkably level. I got lucky. You will not be that lucky. So I suggest either a system of digging down certain blocks or shimming up your beams. Now, I happen to get very lucky today, and I'm going to take that. And so my advice for you is figure out how to get your beam level. It's going to be either you're digging down or you're shimming up, one or the other. So the first thing I want to do is establish how many joists I'm going to actually need. In this case, we're doing them 16 inches on center. So come here. We know that our rim joist is going to land right here at 1.5 inches. It's going to sit there. So we're going to go from center here to the center being here. So what you can actually do is just add 3/4 of an inch to your total measurement. So it's 16 3/4 for your first one. Now you see that? We move that into the middle, and you can see center and center. That's where it's going to be. So 16 is the edge. That's where your joist is going to sit, right on. Now we're going to sit them right next to the red marks. You notice on your tape, you have the number is highlighted in red for your 16 on centers. And then we know that this is our mark, and this is where our joist is going, on this side of the mark, so we don't forget. Right to the end. Now this one is pretty close to the end. So what I actually want to do is come in here. We know we have one going here, and then I know I have a 5.5 inch space for the pergola that I'll be putting in, and I want that blocking to be there. So really, I want one here and one here, not here at all. If you're going to mark out all your joists on your beam beforehand, it would have been easier to stack all three up, mark all three at the same time. In this case, we didn't do that, so I'll be doing it myself. And here's what we're going to do. I want to make sure I mark all the beams. That way, all my joists are going to be in the same place. Okay, we're going to cut our rim joists. 2 of them will be 8 feet, and 2 of them will be 8 foot 3 inches. That's one. Brand new tape, stick. People are like, why don't you mark it with a crow's foot? Because I don't freaking want to, okay? There's no need. I'd just be pretending. We cut things so damn accurately, we don't need to. Once your joists are cut, we got them all in a pile over there. We're going to cut the rim joists. In this case, we need 2 of them. We're going to cut them the exact same as the length of our beams. That way we have an exact square that's going to be 8 foot 3 by 8 foot 3. And we have a cantilever of 6 inches. And just for reference, I'm going to mark this one at 6 inches right here and line those 2 marks up. That's how I know. And then come over here. I want you to see the side. Keep it flat on this side as well. So steer that into place. We are using these structural framing screws rather than framing nails, which you can use, but this being a DIY deck, these are probably the easiest thing to use, and these are code rated for framing, so they're great. Now, being that this is the first joist, I want to come in from the outside on an angle inwards. Just like that. If I go in from this way, obviously the screw will just poke out the side. Same thing, one screw through the back. What I do is I move it out a little bit. That way when the screw tows it in, it'll self-adjust. to where we want it. Now, we can do the exact same thing on the other side. This is where we're going to get into the squaring of the structure, because as of right now, the structure is sort of just eyeballed into place. So we're just going to repeat the process from the other side. I come in at 6 inches here. Take that off. Then it's pretty obvious. I got to get that and that into place. Line those two up. Just like so. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Same thing we did last time. Framing screw. Okay, now the other side. If you're working by yourself and this is a DIY job, here's a little tip I'll give you. There's a lot of different ways to do this, and a lot of people will give you different ideas. But what I do, take one screw, just, half an inch into the grain there. Then, take your joist, set it on the screw there, and bring it over here. Now, that's going to hold that in place, or help you hold that in place while you get your screws in here. Now, this being a 2x6, the rule of thumb is you want to put 3 screws in each board. 3 fasteners. Let's go. 1. 2. 3. Now we go to the other side where our assistant screw is still standing there. His arms are burning, I'm sure. We pull this screw out. Now we're ready to attach this on this end. Very easy, very fun. Get this nice and square. This is where the real fun is happening. That we have that done, we can scooch this one over. We know where this needs to go, but is it center? Let's measure. We know we have 8'3" total, so half of 8'3" would be 4 foot 1.5. So let's measure 4 feet 1.5 inches. I have to take my trusty speedy square, transfer that mark, and I know that this beam is actually supposed to be in the center over there. Just like that. For pressure treated lumber, you want to seal those cut edges. So all the cut edges on PT technically should be sealed. Will that stop the project from rotting out? Absolutely not. But here we are. Let's do it anyways. Because we want to be able to say we did. When someone asks, did you seal the edges? We need to say, of course. Not, no, that doesn't do anything. But now that we have all 4 rim joists on, it's time to get it square. So we're going to measure from corner to corner to do that. Now we go from corner to corner. In this case, we have 141 7/8. Now what we need is both sides, corner to corner, to be identical. So let's go from this corner to this corner. And here we have 138. So clearly that is not square. And we're gonna have to make it square. Well, let's try tugging this outwards. We're gonna have to split the difference. So between say 140, so it's like a 4-inch difference. So honestly, we have to move this out to almost 140 before they're even close. And this is the part that's kind of tricky. And we skipped a step earlier by not doing a layout, but hey, maybe we don't have to. So there's 139.5. Let's go to 139.75. There's that right there. Now let's check the other side, see what we got. Now we have 140.5. Oh my gosh. Okay, so then let's go to, looks like we can get to like 140.25 on each one. So let's try that. Okay. Got 140 exactly. Let's keep going. Okay, 140.25. Let's check the other side. Let's see here. 140.25. We did it. It's perfectly square. All right, now that it is perfectly square, let's start putting our joists in place and screwing those in. So first thing I'm going to do is bring them all in, pile them up. All right, we'll start at the end here and work our way back. We have our marks already laid out for us. We know where they got to go, and we know that they're already cut to size, so we can just flex the wood to get it into place. Sometimes the wood wants to be stubborn because it's a natural product. We're going to wait to attach our rim joist to the joist to make sure we don't have to steer anything before we do that. So for now, let's tag him into the beam, and that's about it. This keeps everything honest, on the marks, and where we need them. All right, one at a time. Here's a pro tip. You don't have to do this, but I recommend it. You want to crown your joists. Now, you want to see the crown is the outer part where the joist is going to be bowing in a specific direction, and you want to make sure the bow that's going up is going up in the air, kind of like this. That way gravity kind of self-corrects over time. So you want to check them all for crown as you're laying them out. Now that they're all in place, we'll screw them all down into the beams. Remember the X's we made? That's the example. The X goes, the board goes over the X and up to the line. That's how that's done. If this were a professional job, your beam would be at least 2 ply thick and it would be 8 inches high, not 6. But this is a DIY job. I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible in a way that will still be effective. If you want to be on the safe side, you can alternate. You can do this. 1, 2 on this side, Another screw on the other side. That will help prevent the joist from rolling, if that would ever happen. In a structure this size, definitely not going to happen. What to do is steer this rim joist into place. Okay, then you're going to come over here, pull these screws out. Well, that screw doesn't want to come out, but you know what? Here's what we think about that. We don't negotiate with that kind of nonsense. All right, so what we want is our two joists, our rim joist and our floor joist to be flush. So we'll just finger feel, get a little finger feel, and then come in here. Same thing, let it down or up. With just one screw for now, we're gonna go back and put two more in each one. But this is just to get it nice and flush, because we don't need our top of our deck looking funny. Put your body weight on it, won't hurt. There we go. Beautiful. Now this, we'll pull this one. We'll give this a little lift. Nice and flush. We'll have to put an extra one in this one because of the way the screws behaved today. Beautiful. Okay, we're almost there. We'll do the same thing to the back. All right. If the composite shims you buy don't work, you can just make yourself a pressure treated shim. I'm not sure how DIY friendly that tip is, but is probably the best solution in the case that we're in. So, two pieces of wood, nice wedges, okay? Then, seal them up, just because they're gonna be under the deck, and that white wood exposure will be the first thing to go. So you seal those up, there's no question that that's the best practice in this case, if you can't get vinyl shims. Now the cool thing about the Tuff Block system, it's got these little dimples. These dots are actually raised above the grade. That way, water is more prone to run out of the Tuff Block rather than into the Tuff Block. So what I do with my shims is I alternate them, drive one into the other, snugs them right up. And if you want to tack something in just so they don't slide apart, feel free, grab a screw, lock them in. That's a great way to level something on a block like this. There's no question about that. Composite shims work too. In this case, you just pull them in alternating directions. One here. Now the composite shim, you can be sure that it won't rot. But if you don't have access to that, the pressure treated shim, probably fine. Now this, like that. Grab your screw, lock it in. Boom, boom, boom. There you have it. And with that, I think we're done. And there you have it. The frame is done. Wasn't that easy? And to tie this back to the beginning of the series, when I said that my backyard looked like a lumber yard and it was starting to make a mess and I had to get out here and get some work done so my boss, aka my wife, could see the visual progress I was making in the yard. Now that we're done the job, beautiful frame is done, have a look at what I did to the yard. Funny enough, it's actually in worse shape than it was when I came out this morning. That's the joke. That's what keeps marriage alive. That's what makes it fun. And I'm gonna go inside now, make a steak, and sit down by the fire because it is the middle of Feb, because I can't say February or February. I don't know what you want me to say, so it's the middle of Feb. It is the winter. I'm in a t-shirt because it's about 6 degrees today, and I enjoyed it. So yeah, have one last look at our little DIY frame. We built that remarkably fast. And it's going to be something to go into this blank canvas of a backyard we're going to slowly piece together. Thanks.